What else do I want to mention here? So yeah, Tom, go ahead and record. So yeah, this presentation is very kindly being offered to us by Greg Barrage, who works at Sony Picture Imageworks and who you can see on screen. He runs the summer internship at Sony Picture Imageworks. Just to tell you how we're going to have things run, I'm going to turn it over to Greg in a minute, we are going to do he's going to give a presentation, and then we're going to do some Q&A at the end. So at the end, I'll announce when that's going to be, and you can pop your questions into the chat. If for some reason you have to leave early to go to a class or something like that, then go ahead and put your question in the chat before you go, and we can hopefully answer it after you've left, and then you can watch the video and find out the answer to your question. Other than that, I will also mention that the posting to apply for the internship is listed on Artswork, but I think Jeff is going to pop it into the chat now and probably again at the end, just so you can link to that. So without further ado, I'll turn that over to Greg Barrage. We're so happy to have you here today, and take it away.
So great to be here. It feels like forever since we've seen each other. So thank you for this opportunity on behalf of myself and for Sony. So as you can see, my name is Greg Barrage. I am currently the Managing Director of Training, Artistic Development, and Academic Relations at a little company called Sony Picture Imageworks. I come from a background of education. I went to, I think, your sister school, Alberta College of Art and Design for my degree many moons ago. I entered the industry in Vancouver in 2000. So I was teaching at a popular film school here, as well as doing a lot of contract work. Then I moved from that facility to Digital Domain in 2011, and at Digital Domain I got to work on Jack the Giant Slayer, Ender's Game, Iron Man 3, in very small capacities on each one, because my primary goal and my primary role is training in education, in helping students make a transition from school life to industry life, because it's a very different scenario. I did then, I think in 2013, I left Digital Domain and came to Sony. And since I've been at Sony, I've trained all of the disciplines that we offer. So everywhere from layout all the way through to effects. And currently I just manage everything. So I tell everybody what to do, which is really cool. In addition to still overseeing our rigging, CFX, effects, and pipeline training. So yeah, it's fun. It's a good big job, but I'm up to the challenge. And we have a unique opportunity today because I'm actually in the studio today, which is very cool for me because I haven't been here since September, I think, of last year. So that's good. So let's get started. So I have a little video here just to maybe remind you who we are and what we do. So we're going to take a quick look, and then I'm going to go straight into a presentation talking about reels, expectations of what we like to see on reels. I then have some examples of some of the reels that we've received in the past. Then I'm going to focus more on the program, the internship program, give you the lay of the land there. And then, yeah, we're pretty much ready for questions after that. So we'll kick this off with a little sizzle reel. So here we go. All right. So hopefully you've had an opportunity in the past to watch one or some of those uh, shows that are from that little tidbit. So some of the highlights from the last few years, we're a unique house, a studio in that we do both visual effects as well as animated feature films. And that is very, very unique. There's a lot of studios that will focus on one or the other, but here we have definitely a variety of work. So Over the Moon was released last year. It was our first pandemic release, and that was on Netflix. And you can still watch it on Netflix. For any of the animators out there, that was directed by Glenn Keane. He was in studio for a while here, and definitely an amazing experience for everybody on that show. And then also on, what is going on here? Oh, sorry. Also Connected, which has got an interesting story. So this is the one, I can't see my mouse. So Connected was originally called Mitchell's versus the Machines when we were working on it throughout the entire production. And then when it came time for release, they decided at Sony Pictures Animation to change the name to Connected because they thought Mitchell's was too long of a name. But because you can see October 23rd last year was when this was supposed to come out. Everything's going on, theaters are closed. So we just struck a deal with Netflix to have that be shown on that streaming service in the next couple of months. The interesting thing is they already have a show in production or that's on the channel called Connected. So they wanted us to change the name. So we went back to Mitchell's versus the Machines, and they love it. So a lot of people on the show love the name Mitchell's, and we got it back. So I'm very happy about that. So then on the other side, we do our visual effects shows. So, I think Spider-Man is our staple. We are involved in everything Spider-Man that happens out there. So it's pretty cool. Meg was another big animation show for us where we handled the large shark. A lot of the middle of the road shots on Milan. So we did the avalanche sequence for Milan with the digital horse, which was a huge undertaking for us. And then of course Jumanji, and there's lots of other stuff that I could get into. Those are just some of the call outs from the last few years. Currently in production, we have, I think we just landed our 10th job, our 10th major production. We have 5 visual effects shows and 5 animated features going on. I can't actually talk about most of them because of our agreements and our non-disclosure agreements, but I can say, we are working on for Hotel Pennsylvania, number 4, which should be coming out, I think it's October this year. Fingers crossed, we get to see that in theaters. And there's another one that's out there called Vivo, and it's fully animated as well. And this one, I'm really looking forward to Vivo. I've watched some of it, and it's fantastic. The look, the feel, the music. It's a musical, so it's the music is all written by Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton fame. So it just has that nice resonating impact. So it's pretty cool. But we're busy. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. We have, our studio in Vancouver, we have our studio in Culver City, and we are also embarking on a fairly large initiative to expand into different areas. We are still restricted by what we call our data center. So where we all get our work from, where all of our shots are actually, where they live is in a data center in Washington State. So we have to be in a certain proximity to that to do what we do. Anyone who's working further out isn't necessarily involved in shot work. So that's one of the stipulations for the internship program as well, where we can't, if you want to do the internship program, you still have to be in Vancouver, right? You have to be in at least the Lower Mainland, where you have an opportunity to come into the studio to pick up your equipment and then take it back to your home and get it all set up. So we'll talk more about that when the time comes. I do want to talk a little bit about demo reels, right? Because I think this is vitally important. At every step of your career, you're going to want to, always put your best foot forward and show what you can do. And that's really what a demonstration reel is all about. So I have a couple of pointers here, just some quick tips to keep in mind. I'm really hoping a lot of this has come up through your classes, with speaking with instructors, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to be reiterating some things. So these two kind of go hand in hand, which is why I have them on the same slide. You always want to show your best stuff, right? That's important. And don't wait to show your best work. There's often I hear things like, show your second best piece and then finish with your best piece because you want to finish strong. Don't agree with that at all, right? We have, and I'm going to keep referencing back to the internship program, because we generally have between 500 and 800 applications for this program a year. And we literally have 2 weeks to go through those reels and choose the people we want to bring in. So do the math on that. And we literally have about a minute per reel to go through. So if I'm watching a demo reel and I get to about 15 seconds in and nothing has grabbed my attention, I go on to the next one, literally. And this is an extreme situation, but it's the perfect perfect analogy, right? It's the perfect thing to think about. Best work first. If I see something I really like, I'm going to keep watching, right? So that's really, really important for me. Keep it short, right? There's a number in here, right? About halfway through the paragraph, it says the maximum length should be 2 minutes. So there's 2 things to pull out there. Max 2 minutes, which means you don't go over 2 minutes. That doesn't mean you have to make 2 minutes. Your reel doesn't have to be 2 minutes. Honestly, if you have 15 seconds of amazing, right, from an animation standpoint, I understand, modeling reels, lighting reels, effects reels, they take a bit more time to show what you can actually do because there's breakdowns involved and other areas. But if an animation reel is 10 seconds long, that's enough to get you a junior position at some studios, as long as you've got that quality. So it's not about quantity, it is about quality. One amazing model will get you noticed way, way faster than 3 okay models, right? It's not about that quantity. Often, the question I often ask live is, how long should your demo reel be? And everybody comes up with, a minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. You're all right, but you're all kind of wrong too. Because what I'm trying to get at is your reel should be as long as you have amazing work, amazing drop dead gorgeous work. If you're flipping through your sketchbook, right? Hopefully you've all used sketchbooks. You flip through your sketchbook and there's that one drawing that the stars aligned, everything came into contact and just, wow, it's the best thing ever. That's what you show, right? The rest of the book, you're not trying to fill it, you're not trying to hit the duration of a song that you really, really love. You are trying to show your best work, right? Personality is important to us. So knowing a little bit about who you are, which we normally derive from the work that you do. Because let's be honest, you have this brilliant opportunity right now within school to make anything you want, anything, right? Most of the time, that's how the final term in school is. You have a choice. That choice, believe it or not, reads a little bit into you, right? So if you can think about that, and while you're coming up with your ideas, put a little bit of yourself in there. You don't have to make the character you, but if we see some of your interests, that's always very, very handy. Specific reels. So we look at, we're a large studio. So we have the advantage, disadvantage, some may say, of having specialists, right? So when you come into Sony, you're an animator, you will animate 8 hours a day, right? That's what you're going to be asked to do. You won't do any modeling, you won't do any rigging, you will animate. That's your job. That's what you're going to do. If your target is a smaller studio, because you feel like you're just a bit more of a generalist, and you think you would be able to do a few more things. Great. That's something I think that's really important for you to understand about yourself as an artist. If you're not going to be content doing the same thing 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, for the next few years, if you're on a show, then hey, you know what? I mean, I think of myself more of a generalist. I went the training path, I went the education path, which has been beneficial to me, right? But if I was to go into the industry, I would need to choose. I would need to choose something that I love. And I know what that would be, but I haven't had to choose yet, thankfully, because I get to do a bit of everything, which is kind of fun. But you guys, you should have that strength. You should have that one thing that you feel is your go-to skill: animation, modeling, texturing, right? Whatever that may be. I'll leave that to you. Make sure it's only your work. I don't think I should have to say anything more than that. If you're doing group projects, that's different. As long as you are somehow displaying that, like if you just did the animation, don't take credit for the lighting. If you only animated one character, only take credit for that character, right? And oftentimes we just do that with call outs at the bottom, right? If you have more professional work, which you never know, who might be out there like that. Oftentimes you can accompany your demo reel with a list of what you did on each shot, and that's handy as well. So it's, like I said, only your work for the most part. If you have tech ability, if you have some Python scripting, anything along those lines, if you can show a technical side, it is advantageous, because we do work in an industry that is, it's the perfect symbiosis of technical and art that work together, and we have to work together. So if you have some technical knowledge and some technical know-how, that's another language that you can communicate with other groups. So an animator that knows maybe a little bit of Python can talk to the riggers maybe in their language a little bit. And I know riggers are emphasized to know a bit about animation, right? So we have our disciplines, we have what we're really, really good at around here, but we also try to nurture that relationship with the surrounding areas. So a modeler who knows some of the textures so that they understand what's required is really, really important. Slate it. So put your name on put your title page. There has been a few times when, not recently, but in the past, where you look at a reel and they haven't, the name is there, but there's no contact information. There's no email. There's like, I love the work, but, and then you have to track it back, and you have to go to, submission criteria and all that. It's not that it's impossible to find, but when you've got 1,000 or let's say 500 candidates, you're not going to take the time. So make it simple. Imagine the people that are reviewing your reel are the most disorganized, the busiest people you've ever met in your life, and you want to spoon feed them information as much as you possibly can. That is actually something we appreciate. So slate it, put your name. I don't care if it's at the beginning or the end. It doesn't have to be both. If it is both, whatever, it doesn't matter. But realistically, the whole idea of putting your contact information at the beginning and at the end came from the old VHS days, when you would want to put your information at the end as well, because people wouldn't rewind your tape. But we don't worry about that, because there's a wonderful little slider bar that we can use to navigate that around. So quality control, check for spelling. I can't emphasize that enough. And I don't know, it's not just me, because I know a lot of CG supervisors at Sony that will completely discount a reel if you spell something wrong. Environment, right? If you're an environment model, that's the most popular misspelling I ever see. At one time, I saw somebody who submitted their animation reel, right? And to this day, I still call it animation. Right? Why? Because I think it's fun. It's fun. But I know that was a complete mistake on their behalf. But quality check. Make sure that it's all, everything is buttoned up there. Get critics, right? Have people look at your reel. Develop a trusted group of individuals at the school that you can go to for honest opinions. Sometimes you don't want this to be direct friends, like close friends. Think about acquaintances. Think of people that they're just the best people to go to, because if it's a really good friend, they may not want to hurt your feelings. If they're an acquaintance, they're going to give you a better assessment. They're going to tell you the truth, hopefully. If it's family, forget it. Don't go to family and ask them how they feel about your work, because everything you do is fridge worthy. They want to put it up. They want to show their friends. So they're not going to tell you the truth. So yeah, just be careful with that one. Make sure it's online all the time, whether it is a concept art development piece you want to go on, like have a website for that all the time. But when it comes to, just a demo reel, like having a demo reel, as long as it's on Vimeo, you're good. I often, okay, this might get me into trouble, but I'm okay saying it because it's personal opinion. I would not take the time to develop a website if it's taking away from, let's say, polishing an animation or finishing up that model that you really, really want to do. The site itself, especially if you don't have any inclination towards it, is kind of a waste of time in a lot of ways, because all you're going to do is you're going to take that website and you're going to put your demo reel on the first page. And that's all I'm going to look at. So you might as well take the time and put it into the work and not into, per se, marketing of it. If you're doing concept art, modeling sometimes works better on websites, texturing, that kind of thing. But just focus on the work and get that as a good presentation in a solid video, get it up on Vimeo, and let the rest take the back seat. Like I said, maybe unpopular, but my take. If you know how to do it and you think you can whip out a website in like a weekend, great. But even that, I'm like, so that's a weekend, let's say 16 hours. What could you animate in 16 hours? What could you model in 16 hours, right? So that's just my take on it. Cool. So that's 10 pretty common things, common ideas that come up in most classes, but I do know I have sometimes a little bit of more of a unique spin on it. I wanted to put this here because this is all of the positions that we would hire for in our, like, Vancouver is our head office. So we hire everything. We look for everything from like animation, so the artist side, the software side, the development side, production, which is like producers and coordinators, which is, it's something that I don't talk very much about, but sometimes people just want to be involved in the movie industry, which is the first thing, right? If any of you are saying to yourself right now, well, I don't really like movies, I couldn't care less, it's not right for you, right? If you think, oh, gaming would be better for me, go for it, right? That's you having to listen to your inner voice, and that inner voice is going to tell you what it wants, right? Because let's be honest, you came to art school to do art, to create art, to be an artist. If you wanted to have a job, a normal job, there's a lot of other options out there, right? But I mean, sometimes people love film, they'd love to be involved with it, but they might not feel like they're the strongest of artists. So there's roles. There's roles for strong technicians, for strong people. Like our production teams, coordinators through producers, are just really great people, right? They get along and they just like to help nurture talent. Just like, the bottom one, digital trainers. I have a team of 4 people that work in my training group, and I love my group. Like, I think it's the closest thing that I have to a family outside of my family, and I love it. So, all right, so I have some examples here that I'm just going to kind of play through and talk over, just because I want to tighten it up a bit. So I don't necessarily know. I'm not going to focus on one. I'm going to focus on several different ones here. So this would be animation, obviously. So once again, first piece, right? This is the first thing I get to see on the reel. So what attracts me is its polish, right? It's completed, it's well rendered, very well animated. Right? There's still issues, right? There's some problems. There's some collisions that don't work right, some miscues in overall animation, but it gets my attention, right? Second piece in, I'm like, okay, this is another popular exercise that we see with animation, which is just the waiting, the idea that you have to wait for something, wait for the bus. He's waiting for a golf ball to drop, waiting for a pot of water to boil, right? So once again, this is another exercise focusing on silhouette. Once again, pretty cool. At this point in time, it's getting long, right? This piece, though interesting, I don't necessarily agree with putting it on the reel. If all you ever have is play blasts for animation, don't let that stop you from submitting, because I've seen amazing work just play blasted get a lot of attention, but it's just getting that first piece that people go, oh wow, you got to look at this, right? And overall, I think that reel was, do I have the time on that? So it's a minute. This is a minute long, which means somebody told this person that your reel has to be a minute, kind of thing. When honestly, it could have stopped. I mean, I'm already in a position where I would look at them for the internship there, right? To be honest, I've already decided I want them. Here, because it's the humor. Now I get to know this person, and we can work some long hours. And if you exhibit a sense of humor and a cool personality, I'm gonna be like, yeah, this person will be great. I totally dig, working long hours with this person. So that's kind of a thing with me, right? So I know within a reel. So that's 14 seconds in, right? That I knew that this person would be a good fit for our program. So it's important. I'm not going to do all the animation. I am going to show this one though, because it's more visual effects style animation. Because everything, like the interesting thing about our industry is just when you think you've decided on a path, there's another level to that path. So you can choose, I want to be an animator, right? You may have come into a program at Emily Carr saying, I want to be an animator. And then you start to find out, well, do I want to animate in games? Do I want interactive animation, or do I want to do straight ahead, like real-time animation versus film, games versus film? And then you're like, oh, I don't know which direction to go. And then you decide, I'm going to go with film. And then they'll be like, well, do you want to do visual effects animation, or do you want to do CG animation? So character, the stylized animation. Oh, I don't know. Well, I'm going to go with stylized animation. Oh, well, do you like to do parkour, like do you do a lot of performance, like parkour style stuff, a lot of running, jumping, fighting, that kind of stuff? Or do you like to do acting and pantomime performance level stuff? It's like every time you choose, you just go deeper and deeper and deeper, right? And it's at one point you have to decide where you want to, how many of those pies you kind of want to make yourself accessible to, which is tough. I totally get it. I like showing this one just because it is more visual effects oriented. I love it. Like I said, this one, once again, the entire reel is 11 seconds long, right? Whole thing, 11 seconds for that, right? And once again, this person got the offer just because it's not, like there we go. It's just the illusion of weight. It's the illusion of like the weight of the overall creature, the upcurrents for the wind, the reactions. I just thought that they had a really good sense of the overall character that they were trying to create. There's problems. The lighting is wrong. There's like the comp isn't great, but for animation, because as an animator, you're not doing that other stuff. You're not lighting it. You're not comping it. We have other people to do that. So I like, my favorite thing, and I could say this about every single discipline, is make me believe, right? Make me believe. So no matter what direction, what path you decide to take, make me believe that what you're putting in front of me is real, right? So that's why I like to stay away from the term realistic. I swap that out with believable all the time, because let's like Hotel Transylvania isn't realistic, right? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse isn't realistic, but it's believable for the universe that it exists within, right? You've defined a style, you've defined a genre, you've defined a world, and now everything that goes into that world has to match, it has to fit. So for me, that was this, right? This isn't what I would consider a realistic dragon, right? But it's a believable dragon. I can start to see it, right? And there's a lot of promise there. So on the modeling side, I apologize, I don't have any character reels. I was trying to find some for this, but all of the really great character reels that I see are on Vimeo, and I have to get in touch with the students to see if they'll allow me to show the work. But I do have this one, which is more of just an environment kind of thing, because that's kind of the differentiation, right? If you want to be a modeler, you decide whether you want to be a soft surface or a hard surface modeler, and then from there, the sky's the limit in terms of directions you could go. Vitally important for us, that when you're showing off a model reel, that you show reference, okay? You show. Just turn this down a bit. So I don't. Neither do you. Music on anything other than an animation reel, sound is like, we normally turn it off. So it's something that I can do without. But make sure that on a modeling reel, you do your turntables, right? You show your wires. How does that keep? This is another one. So it's the same idea. All right, just give me a second. All right, just making sure we're still good with this. I was just getting a message saying my internet was unstable. So somebody can just chime in and let me know we're still okay.
Yeah, I can still see you. I got.
Ghislaine, I heard you try to say something.
Yeah, I was just saying it's a little bit glitchy at times, but I can still hear you, and I'm still seeing the reel. It's just sometimes it
feels like it's my network connection here. So
if you're having issues and you're presenting
I'll try to slow down a bit.
Material still, you can just turn off your camera and talk over the microphone. If that works for you.
Okay. All right. So hopefully it's maybe the video that's skipping and you guys can still hear the audio a lot. So my take on modeling reels is that the modeling reels, they have to show your wires. So you have to show your process. So how well the topology is actually put together there. Really, really important. Honestly, for a modeling reel, we don't care about textures, right? It's about looking at the models themselves. Content wise, try to not do anything that's popular right now in like popular culture. Dragons, really popular. Steampunk, post-apocalyptic, anything. We see a lot of it. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat here. Okay, cool. But yeah, as long as you can hear me, I think that's the important stuff. I put this in here because I really like that as far as presentation for props. Anytime you can just call things out. like this, really, really handy. Okay, will do. Got it, Ruben. All right. I'm gonna have to mute each one of them, but the audio really doesn't care. I don't really worry too much about the audio. So compositing, let's see how this plays through. So compositors are really the unsung heroes of this industry, and definitely the compositor leans more towards the visual effects industry. And what I mean by this is that, like with the unsung hero, if you do your job well enough as a compositor, people don't know you did anything, right? So if we just even back it up to that first piece, right? I'm looking at this going, okay, I buy it, I believe it. This kid is doing some amazing dance moves in this area. And that's why it's so important to include breakdowns with the compositing reel, because from here, if I'm looking at that frame, I don't know what you've done. I don't know all of the work that you've had to put into this. So the breakdowns will show me what you had to do. This was the original plate. This is what I would have started with. So that means I have to do rotoscoping. There was some painting outs that I had to do. There's a wall replacement with some projections. So it's just showing me, you show me, look at this. This is amazing. Look what I just did. This is how I did it, right? And that's really, really important. And I would say the same thing with, lighting. With a lighting reel, you may want to take one of your well lit pieces and just kind of do a quick breakdown. Talk about your keys, your rims, your fills, any of the extraordinary lighting that you might have done with different passes. And then just only do that once, right? You don't have to repeat yourself on every single piece, because the secondary aspect of showing things like these callouts at the bottom is to show a prospective employer that you understand the language, right? Which we appreciate, that you get when we talk to you about projection mapping, stuff like that, you get it. And you can see it in a reel that you've done it, but you don't necessarily know if you're both talking about the same thing. So it's important. Effects, which is once again one of those areas of high demand, but also really, really can be difficult to learn. We primarily use Houdini for lighting, Houdini for effects here at Sony. And stuff like this, these are all directly from like an online video series, like an online tutorial series. So that's actually okay. If you do a good enough job, just don't try to claim it as original content, original ideas. So pipeline wise, we use Maya, Autodesk Maya here a lot. So Maya would be front end layout, rigging, modeling, animation. I think that's about it. So those areas are used heavily within Maya. For CFX, so cloth, hair, and fur, we use a combination of proprietary software and Maya. So if you're interested in cloth and hair, just dig into Nucleus or dig into XGen, because that's all you got. That's all you can really learn. Marvelous Designer wouldn't be a bad idea either. If you, from there, for lighting and look dev, which is our materials and shader development, that would be in Katana, which is not proprietary, but our version is kind of customized. But you can still find Katana. You can use Katana out there. It's available publicly. So that would be beneficial if you had that as your kind of destination. For texturing, we use a combination of Mari and Substance. So Mari we'll use for our core characters. So our main characters, main elements will be Mari. And then midground, background can be a combination of Substance, Mari. And really what it's becoming is whatever that artist is comfortable with. So if we have a lead who is doing lead characters, they may use Substance to do those lead characters. We don't, I mean, if they do a good enough job and it looks great, then they could use Photoshop. We don't really care, right? Photoshop's a little harder because we are a Linux facility. So our pipeline, all of our artists work on Linux boxes. So it's not Mac, it's not Windows, it's Linux, which is a little bit of an adjustment for associates. And then lighting. So this is a bit of a smorgasbord of lighting and modeling and some texturing going on. So I would consider this more of a look dev reel. But look dev and lighting a lot of times can go hand in hand. So it's not a bad thing. All right, this is the last video anyway. Oops. Okay, how's that? So that's the last video that I'm actually going to show. So let me just keep paying attention to the chat. I don't know why that's not letting me. All right, so just a quick note about resumes, and I'm not going to go into the specifics. Just like, sorry, not just keep them tight. Keep them to a page. Most relevant experience is always going to be at the top, which is school for the most part, and it normally is. And really, you want to, try to get that first studio gig or that first professional level kind of position, so that you can bump experience, so you can get the school down to education, and then start getting that experience section lined up. I'm a big fan of bullets. I'm a big fan of bolding in these reels. This, like my resume is 2 pages, and I've been at it for, I'm going to say 24 years now. I stretch for 2 pages, and I sometimes get like smaller text, but this coming out of school, 1 page should be plenty. Networking opportunities out there in Vancouver, we have Spark, which is fantastic. It's a great organization to volunteer with, as well as attend some of the talks that they put on in the near future. SIGGRAPH is going to be in Vancouver next year, which is a large graphics conference. So pretty excited. This year SIGGRAPH is virtual. So it was supposed to be in Los Angeles, but now it's all online. So it's something else just for you to check out. LinkedIn is great, right? LinkedIn is not Facebook. You don't go there to socialize. You go there to connect with recruiters. And then once you're connected with them, the recruiters will kind of say what's happening, right? They'll announce the jobs that are coming up, when we need people. It's a great connection to actually have. So I just have some notes here also from Mark Breakspear, who is one of our amazing visual effects supervisors. I'm not going to talk through every single one of them. I think some are pretty self-explanatory, but I just think they're just words of wisdom, right? That I asked him for. So everything you want is on the other side of the thing that scares you. So every day something should scare you, right? And it's okay to be scared. Just don't let the fear take over and move past it, because the other side is great. Self-explanatory. Social media will, anyway. Care deeply, but don't let it become precious. So you are not the work is not you. Separate, because when you receive notes or you receive comments on your work, you've got to make sure that the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you receive notes is, okay, when do you need it, right? It's not yours, it's somebody else's vision that you're now starting to help create. How can I help you? Perfect thing. That's you're service oriented. You are here to help somebody else. How can I help you? That's how I start all my communication. Communication is key. And you've heard this before, great work is abandoned, never finished, right? That's actually what Mark looks like right there on the left. Always something going on you don't know about. So trust, like that, the whole line there for G is trust. Trust that your lead has a larger idea of everything that's going on. And when he gives notes or they give notes to what you're doing, it's because they can see the bigger picture. Hope is not a plan. I can go on forever about that one. Communicate well, up and down. So treat everybody equally, treat everybody the same. And yeah, it just goes a long way. You'll have to teach yourself most of what you need to know. Hard to say to a group of people in school, but I think some of you already know that. I'm self-taught. I never went to school. I never went to class to learn Maya. Because when I started learning Maya, I started Maya on beta 0.9, which is before public release, and there was nobody teaching it. So I had to teach myself. So that, in essence, has allowed me through my entire career to be a learner, to know how to learn and to pick up tasks really, really easily, quickly too. Learning how to talk about your work. So the more often you can get in front of a group of people and talk about what you're doing, the better. And work and life are the same thing, right? Especially now, it's more critical. Like when I'm at home, it's great because I can be working along and my dog can come in and jump on my lap during a meeting. And I kind of miss her right now. I wish she could come in and jump on my lap. But it's so much more important right now because you can have a much better balance when we're in our houses. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. Stuff about the internship program. All right, that's our training room. Important to note, this year's internship is a remote internship. So we are going to be sending our participants home with equipment. Everything's going to be done online. We'll see how things might change, how they might evolve. I would love to get everybody together a few times, but I'm not promising anything. At this moment in time, it's going to be handled the way everybody else is working. To apply, you need a cover letter, you need a resume, and your reel. Once again, the reel is paramount. I will look at the reel first, right? If I like the reel, then I go to the supporting documents, the cover letters, the resumes, stuff like that. But it's the reel that's going to get you noticed. It's going to get your foot in the door. It's an 8-week program. It's in Vancouver, as it's mentioned here. It is remote, but technically a Vancouver run thing. You have to be eligible to work in Canada because it's paid. We can't take free work. It's against the law, and we just don't do that. Expenses, which I don't think is difficult. Sometimes, getting to work and accommodation, but we don't cover any of that. That's all solely up to the intern. And this year, it's actually going to run from the beginning of July, so just after the July long weekend, July 5th, I believe, through to the end of August. So August 27th, 28th. So right smack dab in the middle of summer. Hey, what else you got to do? So you might as well come and spend it with us. Apprentices, very different. And I'm just going to quickly go through this because the big difference here is with an apprentice, what we've seen is within a coming production, we know that we're going to struggle with finding a certain artist. So perfect example was when we were getting ready to work on Smallfoot. And we have the luxury of knowing what some of our projects are like a year from now. We know what we're working on. So with Smallfoot, we saw it coming and we said, wow, there's a lot of hair in this show. Like everything has hair. If we were to take every single CFX artist from Vancouver, we can't crew this show. Like we don't have enough people. So what do? Right? One of the ideas was to create an apprenticeship. So a folk apprenticeship that was 2 months long, that's what we did. We worked with the shows, we came up with curriculum, we had the shows involved with actually doing the apprenticeship. So for a lot of those, you're working on assets and shots from those shows. And then at the end of the 2 months, if you've done a good job and everybody likes you, which is pretty important, they offer you a full-time gig, like a full-time job on that particular show, which is as full-time as things get. Apprentices are much better paid, I'm going to say. Typical apprentices start at around 45K a year. And then after you finish the apprenticeship program for the 2 months, you get bumped up to like 56.5 or something like that. And really, I mean, that sometimes doesn't seem like a lot of money, but a lot of our apprentices, so we did this apprenticeship 2 years ago, and every single apprentice that came out of that program, because we hired everybody came in, they're now all mid-level artists, not making 65 a year. Right, I'll tell you, like $50 a year. They're much better off. But with an apprenticeship, there's a job waiting at the end of it. It's yours to grab. Right. An internship is something that hopefully you guys can still hear me. I'm getting a connection is unstable thing again. Internship. This is an opportunity that I just like to offer every year, right? It's always the same time, always runs during the summer months. And it's hard on occasion. So if there's something critical and you need to talk, like somebody can chime in, because I'm not going and looking at all the chats. So with the internship, it's more of an experience, I say. So you come in, it's 2 months long, so 8 weeks, and we do like to see people focused. So if you're an animator, we'll put you into like the animation training cycle, and then if there's an opportunity to maybe work with the show on some background characters, doing some cycles, we'll work together, right? I'd love to give that opportunity to students, but at the end of the internship, if there's no job, there's no promise of a job after the internship. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If you've graduated, so here's some conditions I have right off the bat. You have to have graduated from your program before I will offer or allow the shows to offer you a job, right? You've had to have done a good job, right? Obviously throughout the course of the internship. And there has to be a position there, right? We just, because of the cycle of work and how our shows run, I can't predict that every single year in September, we're going to need certain people, right? I know that I said that I've got that look ahead that I can check out, but there's been a few years where there's no work. There's been nothing happening in September, but I'll still run the internship just because I think it's a really, really valuable experience for students to get a taste of our production level pipeline, be involved with the people that we can put in front of you, and just, it's a great experience. So we're on Instagram. I have a great coordinator who helps me out with this. She does all the posting, and I let her run with it because she understands it. I'm not an Instagram person, so join us on Instagram, like us there, and we do announcements through Instagram and a lot of social media. So if you're here, you're going to find out things sooner. All right, so just to kind of wrap things up, I do have like the trailer for Connected and this other Spider-Man thing, but you can watch those on YouTube. So I'm not going to really get to questions, then waste the time there. So I'm going to go straight to questions. And probably stop this playback because it's a little GIF and I want to maximize everything. All right, so that's all I got.
Thanks
so
so
I'm going
much.
to stop my screen.
Okay, I'm going to start looking at some of these questions. The only question that you can't hear me.
Oh. Can you hear me, Tom? Sorry, Greg.
All right, let me check my end.
Just one sec while we figure this out.
Greg, you may have to turn off your camera.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay,
okay.
can you hear me now, Greg?
Yeah,
Can
you
you
know
hear
what
me?
the problem was? Can you hear
What?
me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
It was
perfect.
my fault. It was my fault. I had my speakers off.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay, so the only
Let's
question,
try and do it again. Just to see how it goes.
okay,
Okay, the only
my,
question.
that I saw here so far in the chat, and I encourage anyone attending, if you have a question, go ahead and pop it into the chat. But somebody asked, for modeling, can we show models made in ZBrush?
Ooh, good question. How long can I talk?
Long as you
Yes,
want.
you can. You can. The thing is with ZBrush is we don't use it. So one of the, like, if you show an amazing model in ZBrush, and I can spot a ZBrush model a mile away. So the thing is, you would need to actually be able to model in Maya, right? Rather than sculpting, which is how I view ZBrush and Mudbox and anything along those lines. You would have to show that you know how to, do poly-up modeling, box modeling, something that, because I just know with ZBrush, people get into the habit of starting in ZBrush and then retopoing it and bringing it into Maya. And that almost becomes your pipeline of work, but you can't do that here because we don't have ZBrush. So in that case, you don't know where to start. But if you're confident that you could model it just as well inside of Maya, then yeah, definitely.
Okay, and don't be shy, everybody. This is your chance to ask questions, but in the meantime, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I know that I get this question a lot in advising, and I know you've answered it for me before, but you might want to answer it for everybody else, which is a lot of students are interested in concept art. And
Yes.
how would they best follow that path with Sony Pictures Imageworks?
Well, that's not the path you would follow with Imageworks, unfortunately. We don't do any of that. Okay, so it's a great question because I know that there is a lot of interest and there's some amazing artists that come out of Emily Carr, but we're a client-centric visual effects animation house, which basically translates to we get handed everything. Like when we have to model something, it comes from Sony Pictures Animation. They do all of the designs, they do the drawing, they do the storyboards. So everything from layout forward is what Imageworks is responsible for. But what you're talking about in terms of concept would be Sony Pictures Animation, for instance. Warner Animation Group would do that. Netflix has an animation, you've all heard Netflix Animation, right? They're a development house. They're doing that side of things. Pearl Studios out of it was the old DreamWorks Asia is concept art. So locally for concept art, I think that place like Animal Logic does a lot of their concepts, so that would be a good place to look at.
Yeah.
A lot of the a lot of TV houses like Atomic, Nardell, they usually have some pretty good concept departments. But for Imageworks, I'm just being honest, we used to have one person who would do concepts for us, but we don't even have him anymore.
That's good. Thank you for that. Okay, I have a question here. Somebody asks, what would you be looking for in, oops, I skipped ahead. For the demo reel again, for modeling, should it be specific, like to hard surface modeling and soft surface modeling, or can it be a mix?
Are you good at both? That's my question. Like I know sometimes it's rude to answer a question with a question, but modeling reels are tough because you get told so many different things. Like I hear on my modeling reel, I have to have a character, a prop, and an environment. I'm like, do you like modeling characters? No. Well, then don't. No. Right? It's the equivalent of why do something and put it on your reel if you're going to hate doing it at a studio, right? So my take on it is, if you're like whatever you're good at and you're passionate about, that's the direction you take. If you love modeling characters, awesome, do characters. You may only have time, depending on the duration of your master's project at the end, to do one character, right? So it goes back to that very first slide, right? Just show your best work and show what you would just really love to do. I don't paint people into corners when it comes to on a reel. I rely on passion.
Okay, that's good advice. Next one here is, what would you be looking for in a rigging reel, and what makes someone an ideal candidate to be hired as an intern for the ICAD internship? I think that's been the content of this presentation, but maybe the first question.
You know what though? I didn't get a chance to talk about rigging or texturing, so this is totally fair, and I'm glad it came up, because there's a rigger in the room. Just apply, because we need riggers, right? We're like, the industry is desperate for riggers right now. As mentioned, we're working on 5 animated films. Each animated film has an average of 200 characters. That we're currently going through the process of rigging, and our rigging department is about 60 people strong, right? So we are always looking for strong riggers. Now, what to put on a rigging reel? I always look at rigging reels as a solution to a problem, right? And if you can I'm not going to tell you specifically what to put on the reel, but I'm going to tell you how to frame the reel, right? Frame it as the solution to a problem. So most interesting problems don't involve a standard quadruped character, or sorry, a standard bipedal character, right? When you augment an aspect of that character, give them a larger body, larger feet, ears, tail, wings, those become more interesting challenges and require unique solutions, right? So what I'm interested in from a rigger is, show me what you did. Like, show me this character in action. So that could be performing dialogue. It could be a winged Pegasi landing on the edge of a cliff and folding their wings in. I understand the problem when I see that. And then you can go to the actual model with the controls and show me your solution, right? There are certain ththings you don't need to show that you know how to do an IKFK setup. We know you should be able to do an IKFK setup. You should be able to do standard controls on an IK or an FK system. That's not process, but showing how the whole thing is integrated to solving a problem, that's important. Recently, like as of last week, I have a really good friend who is one of the senior riggers here, and he sent me a reel, and it was first thing in the morning last Tuesday, and I opened it up, and it was 13 seconds long, and I pressed play, and all it was Mulan. So the character Mulan, very stylized, so more along the cartoon version than the live action version, going through a series of facial expressions, right? Just Mulan style facial expressions, 13 seconds long. I looked at it and I went, wow, this is really good. So I messaged him back and said, who is this? And he's like, I don't know, but we're interviewing her today. Like 13 seconds. There wasn't a control structure. There wasn't a curve. There wasn't a joint in that entire reel. But what it was here was my problem. I want to do a stylized cartoon version of Mulan, running through a couple of costume changes and through these expressions. And this was how I solved it. And I didn't need to see the rig. I didn't need to see the controls to know that that was a really, really, really good rig that they'd put together. I don't know if they got hired, so I don't know the end of that story.
But they got an interview, and that's
they
that's the
they
first
got
thing.
noticed.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, let's be honest. Sony noticed them, so we're not the only ones. We could
Yeah.
have given her an offer, but that doesn't mean she had to.
Mhm.
So
There's a
hopefully that
couple of
answers that question.
questions. Oh, yeah, I think so. There's a couple of questions here that I think maybe even just technically I could answer them. Because I think maybe there's been a bit of confusion between the apprenticeships and the internships. Somebody
Okay.
says fourth year students can't apply for an internship, right? And I believe the answer to that is right. Because if you're a fourth year student graduating
can.
this fall, oh, they can? They don't need to be returning to school?
Yeah. No.
No. Okay, well then I
No.
just learned something myself. Thanks for that. Great.
Yeah, I've got to change the wording on the website for that because, I mean, in my mind, the ideal candidate would be somebody who is in their third year. They're taking the summer. They're going to return to school in the next year. They take that experience and they can apply it to their work and just get better and better. That doesn't discount the idea that a graduate student could come in and do the internship, right?
Right.
So
That's awesome.
that's completely fine. The only person that couldn't apply for the internship is somebody who has been out of school for more than a few years.
Mhm.
Okay? So if you
Okay.
finished school 3 years ago, I would have to look at that because 3 years out of school, not doing anything, and like within the like you've done nothing for 3 years, and now you want to try to do the internship. That's a bit of a flag for me,
Mhm.
and it's not the opportunity for somebody who's in the industry who wants to maybe try to get into Sony is through the apprenticeship,
Mhm.
right? But the internship is really that opportunity for new graduates, third year students that just want to experience Sony.
Okay. Another couple of questions that are along the same vein while we're on this topic is same kind of question, but fourth year students take priority for the internship ? And I'm thinking, well, as long as they have the best work, I would assume they would.
Yeah. If I see a third year with amazing work, they may take, I can't guarantee that a fourth year is going to take priority. For me, I don't prioritize anything.
Okay. And then by the
Like,
same token,
I saw it pop up here as one of the questions that showed up for a second. Somebody was mentioning about applying if they're in their first year. I'm like,
someone here said, do you take second year submissions and
Yeah,
first year submissions?
yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so then now
Right?
moving on to something else.
I mean, those are the kinds of students that, yep. Go
For
for
a
it.
modeling reel, should I show my UVs, ? Could a good UV get me a starter position as a UV organizer?
Modelers at Sony don't do UVs.
Okay. Good answer. Someone says, hi, if I was working on a
Hi.
lighting demo reel,
Yeah.
would you like to see some AVOS tweaking using Nuke? I said that wrong. AOVs tweaking
AOVs,
using Nuke.
yeah. No, I know what he meant. What they meant, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, is that reel making the rounds? Because I just had another student the other night show me that in one of my classes.
Mm.
And it's AOVs are just different passes that define, that can be extracted to define different looks. For lighting, like our lighting artists don't use Nuke, right? So our lighting artists are strictly in Katana. They use Katana. Anybody who needs Nuke is going to be a compositor. So what you're doing there on the one side is showing a little bit more of a generalist knowledge, which is good. I don't think it's going to work against you. Let me just put it that way. I don't think you have to. It's not necessary, but it's definitely not going to dismiss, like somebody's not going to look at that and go, yeah, no, we're not going to hire this person because they showed Nuke.
Mm.
The other thing with that, what I would say is don't do it every single shot. So if you've got 3 different environments that you've lit, don't do the same presentation on each shot. Just do it once so that we understand that you get the language of lighting, and then just show the results from there on in. So short answer, it would be okay.
Okay. This one, I think you already answered this in the presentation, but if the internship this year is remote, does that mean you can work outside of BC? And as well, would there ever be more remote opportunities even after the pandemic?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay. But I mean, you need to come and pick up the equipment, so you do need to be somewhere close by.
No, sorry. The answer to the first question is no. You have to be in the Lower Mainland.
Okay, that's what I heard in the
Because
presentation too.
You do need to you need to physically come to the studio, because we like give you a monitor to use. We all work PC over IP, which is a little box that communicates with the data center, and you need one of those. A keyboard, mouse, everything like that, headphones, camera, like all of that's part of a little package that you get to not to keep, just be honest, it's what you'll do to do the internship. And it just makes it really, really difficult to start shipping that around.
Yeah.
I know that we do have artists in Montreal, right? We have artists in Wisconsin. We have artists like pretty all over North America. But some of those artists are like senior level riggers, for instance, that we just really need this person. So the show, like the movie, will pay for a purelator to send that equipment to their house because they desperately need that. We're not in that same position with interns.
No.
So next
Understandably.
year, the second half of the question, next year, who knows? I mean, I know that we're working on a few different, because I know the technology is there to do it differently than how we're doing it, but it's like we just don't work on Windows and share through the cloud. We can't work that way because of our clients. So we're locked down in certain ways. And I mean, to just be able to, I had to fight to actually have an internship this year because there was a lot of humming and hawing from senior management, and I had to convince them of the like, we didn't do it last year. I've got to do it this year. We need to nurture junior talent in this environment because the need is just growing exponentially, and we have to. So it's,
well, otherwise there's a black hole 2 years on, right? Okay, I'm just mindful of time because it is it's 1:15. There seems to be a lot of chatter here about this, the like extreme technicality of being on the Lower Mainland. Like, what about a nearby island? But I could come to the Lower Mainland to get the equipment and things like that. I don't know how.
That's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
As long, so getting the equipment is the first stumbling block. The next is making sure you have fast enough internet, right? And you have to have wired internet, right? Like right now, one of the problems I'm having is I'm on my own laptop at work, so I'm not allowed to plug it into our hard line. Right. If I was on my work laptop, then it would be just perfect. Just a result of current situation. So at home, you literally have to have an Ethernet cable that can plug into the back of the PC over IP box that we give you, so that you get that stream. And then your Wi-Fi speed has to, I think I've listed it on the application form, but it's something like 300 megabytes per second or something is minimum to be able to run the single monitor scenario. So as long as you have outstanding internet, Wi-Fi connection or an internet connection, and you can get to the Lower Mainland to pick up the equipment, then
Awesome. Okay, there are a few questions here about visas and status and things like that. And I'm just going to very quickly say that if you are a current student, then you have automatically, by being a current student at Emily Carr, you have a work visa that will allow you to work 40 hours a week in the summer. So that's not a problem. When you graduate, and someone's asking if they've just graduated and they're changing their status from a study permit to a work visa, I'm going to direct that question to the international office. So I would go and talk to Otilia in the international office about that. It's not really a question for this presentation, and she'll be able to help demystify all of that. Another question, for modeling, if we use a concept that isn't ours, how should we credit the artist?
Show the piece. I understand that modelers aren't concept artists, and to be honest, you don't have to be. Your job within that modeling demo reel is, if you take a concept and you mimic, like if you create, I have this, I wish I could show it. I have this incredible modeling reel where the first piece shows up and it looks like a piece of concept art. And then it starts to play on a turntable. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then they show the concept art that goes along with it. And what they've done is better than the concept kind of thing. So you need to, if you choose a piece of concept art that you're kind of emulating or you're trying to recreate, you need to hit that concept, right? It has to be like, you don't take corners. You don't, like, if it's a concept that you have to nail, you show the concept with it. If you're using bits and pieces of different concept, then don't worry about it. So it's kind of like an homage in that case. Then, like, you're not trying to sell the piece. You're not trying to make money off of somebody else's design. You're using this as it's no different than going into like the Louvre and doing a study of the Mona Lisa or something like that, right? Everybody knows you didn't do that. But if within the case, within a modeling reel, showing that you can take a piece of concept art and recreate that as a digital model, that is a huge skill that you want to show at least one time in your modeling reel. And as far as credits, showing the image, artist's name is at the bottom, done.
Cool. A couple of people asked how many positions are available each summer.
They haven't told me yet. Last year I had 25 that I never got to offer. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of assuming I have the same, but I'm
now that it's remote, you could have 100, right?
I could, but I want quality, right? I'm not just, if they give me 25 spots, I'm not going to try to fill 25 spots. If I only have 20 good people, I'm only going to take 20 good people. So
Gotcha.
this is, yeah, I don't think I'll have a problem with filling 25 between you and me and us and everybody. But it's
everybody
for me,
here did
I've bypassed. For me, it's no longer about the quantity; it's about the quality.
Okay, maybe I'll just take two more. How are you doing for time there, Greg?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're good. Okay. There's a question about the extra cost of having a high-speed internet, if that's something that Sony compensates for. That came from
No.
a faculty member, not a student. No.
Wait.
Okay, and for
Well, here's the take on that, though, because I know no is just kind of rude. We don't pay our employees for their bus pass.
Yeah.
Right? We don't compensate for fuel. If you have to drive to work, we don't pay for you to get to work. The idea of having to pay $60 for Wi-Fi is a part of doing the job you have to do.
yeah.
And here's kind of the other side of things. We all have to file taxes, right?
Yeah.
The whole new work from home system we're all doing means that there's a lot more expenses that you can claim back on your taxes now that will be beneficial. So all the money you're paying into taxes, by claiming, electricity, by claiming Wi-Fi, by claiming telephone, right? I think it's a better payoff at the end of the day. You're going to probably see more of a savings at the end of the year. It's a little more during the year, I get that, but at the end of the year, it balances out more.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take this as a last question here. And Jeff, I'm going to see if you can just put the posting back in the chat. Jeff is going to pop the link to the posting so that you can apply. So for animators, can we use characters that we didn't create ourselves? I kind of feel like you might have answered this, but such as Josh Sobel Riggs, assuming that we credit it properly.
Yep. Yeah, I would never expect an animator to be able to rig.
Okay.
Expect.
All
It'd be
right.
great if they could, but like we have,
Hey, you never know.
currently have a rigger. We have a rigger right now who is cross training in animation. So she, no, we'll just say they are starting next week in animation training, and they're going to work on Hotel 4. So
Cool.
I don't know why. I think
Never say never. Okay, I think that's it. I just want to thank you again for your time. I know the students really appreciate it, and it's great that we've been able to record this so that if any students weren't able to come, that we can share that with them then. So on behalf of everybody, thanks so much, Greg. Nice to see you again.
You're very welcome, and great to see you. And Ghislaine, if anybody has any further questions going forward, you know how to reach out to me. If you want to compile them all together in an email, just reach out to me at any time.
I will. I'll do that. Thanks for that too. Okay, thanks everybody for joining us today. And yeah, Tom, you can stop recording. And everybody have a good cold sunny day.